stories of them, stealing and eating children as well, and those are in the United States too. And those most of those tales, date back hundreds and hundreds of years to the Native Americans telling stories like that. And I think the really telling one is back in, I think it was 2004, when the Homo florensis was discovered on the island of Flores in Indonesia, because there were legends of the Ibu Gogo, the grandmother who eats everything, which were these small people, around 3 feet tall, hobbit-sized, that would steal into villages and speared off with children to eat them. And then science found remnants, bodies, well, not bodies, but skeletons, complete skeletons of these small humans, and it proved that those legends were true. So if those legends are true, I'm wondering how many other legends across the world of these little people are true.
Oh yeah, hey, one of the listeners just wants me to ask you, hey Jason, do you feel that these little humanoids are different? Could possibly be aliens or species and that are here on Earth?
Well, here's the thing: when we start putting, mixing things up, is these little people, other than the Homo florensis, which was the scientific name that they were given, other than them, these legends of little people are just legends. And the aliens, other than people who've experienced them, the aliens are just stories as well. Anything is possible, but we've got one unknown and another unknown, and I'm always hesitant to mix those, even though that could be the answer, if that makes sense.
It does. But, again, like Mary Joyce was telling me at one time that when they were building a new community college up near where she lives, when they were, digging, to, blacktop it and do the construction, they ran into some like 6-inch skeletons of humanoids, and that the college quickly gathered it up, and all of a sudden it disappeared. But it even made the newspaper showing the skeletons and stuff like that. 6-inch humanoid. I mean, what happens to any of the traces, both of little people or giants? It seems like when they find something, whatever they find doesn't stay around very long.
And these stories have been around for forever. There was one story that appeared in the Arizona Republic, I think it was like in 1912, about an archaeologist who was going through the Grand Canyon and discovered steps, and went in these steps and found this cave system, and it looked, there's Egyptian writing, there was hieroglyphs, there was there was sarcophagi, there were 6-foot red-haired giant skeletons with 2 rows of teeth, like we hear about, and 6 fingers. There were all of these things in there, and when he came out and reported it and sent some of his findings, sent some of the relics to the Smithsonian, all of a sudden everything disappeared. I mean, that's the first type of story I've heard like that, but that story is pretty common. And my big question is why? I mean, if there's evidence of giants or little people, why would some place like the Smithsonian want to hide it all?
Well, maybe it might change, the theory of how we originated. Because it would show another species of whatever that giants did exist, or miniature little people existed, and that could really throw a thorn in how we originated as humans.
Well, and it could, and there are lots of examples of knowledge being suppressed, which is frustrating. There was one, gosh, I cannot remember her name, but this was, I think, back in the 70s or early 80s. An archaeologist who worked for university in Mexico, and she found evidence of a village that dated back, like 40,000 years, and she tried to publish a paper on her findings, and she was laughed at by the by her colleagues. She lost her job because, of course, everyone knows that no human being showed up in the Americas. Until the Clovis people back 13,000 years ago when the land bridge, blah, blah, blah. And then later science discovered, oh, wait a second, she was right. People have been over here for a really, really long time. It wasn't the Clovis people who were first. So, I mean, that's just one small example of somebody whose career was ruined because she went against the status quo. And we've got lots of people, who are trying to, keep their jobs, keep grant money coming in. And if you have any sort of topic of study that you want to do that's, way off, the normal beaten path, you're risking that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a lot of people's livelihood.
Oh, yeah. And people, let's face it, they still look at you strange, even if you say, I saw a UFO. But, I told you before, I saw something similar to a Bigfoot or a hairy man. I don't know what it was back, in the early 2000s up in the Canadian Rockies. And I talked about it a couple of times this past week. Once you run across something like that, it makes you realize there is things out there that do exist. And that opens your eyes up. If you saw something that looked like a Bigfoot, then it kind of opens your eyes up. Well, maybe there's a Mothman. Maybe there's a Thunderbird.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what, people who are skeptics, and I hate when the word skeptic is thrown around because usually that just, the connotation is somebody who immediately discounts an idea. And, people who are skeptical are just ones who doubt, and they haven't seen enough evidence yet. But as soon as somebody sees a Bigfoot or something that looks like a Bigfoot, you're absolutely right. That completely blows the doors open. Wow, maybe there are, lake monsters and dog men and, things that, walk around, that we can't see, but they're, around us all the time. That's why I'm waiting. I really hate saying this, but I really hope Bigfoot gets hit by a truck.
Well, yeah, I got, last time we were on, I mentioned that somebody needed to actually off one. And, oh, man, did I get pages of emails from people all around the world telling me that I should be locked up for even saying that. But, I like I said, I was up in the Canadian Rockies, out in the middle of nowhere, with a friend of mine who was a medical doctor. We both saw what we seen. It wasn't our imagination, and we know what happened to us when it chased us. It was not a human. It was not a bear. I don't know what it was. But we weren't looking for it, but it makes your eyes open. And unfortunately, it's going to be somebody has to probably kill one, and then at that point, the local governments or whatever, the federal government can say, okay, if you kill one, that is a federal offense, you go to prison. But at least to show that they exist, because, there's a group of people here that say they exist, and then there's another group of people that say they don't exist.
Right, and I completely understand the people who sent you messages saying, you ought to be locked up. This is not the thing to do. I don't want a Bigfoot. If somebody sees a Bigfoot, a hunter does, I don't want him to shoot it, honestly, because I would hate for this creature to be, these creatures to be killed. But how are you going to have it? Do you want these things proven? Or do you want to preserve all of them? Because if you want them proven, you're going to have to shoot one. One's going to have to be killed, because how are you going to go about trapping it? One of the things that people say is, well, why don't they just tranquilize it?
Oh, you don't have time, dude. No.
I'm sorry?
I said you don't have time, because when we ran across that thing and it noticed us, it crossed a creek and it was on our butts for like 2 miles. And I'll tell you, it was the scariest experience you have. If I had a gun, I probably would have dropped the gun, because I was running. I had only one thought in my mind, was to get the hell out of there. What can I say?
Well, and absolutely, and that is probably going to be everybody's. That's why, people complain about photos. Why aren't there more photos? Everybody's got cameras. If you run into a Bigfoot in the woods, the last thing on your mind is to take a picture of it. All right, you're not going to take a selfie with Harry and the Hendersons there. You're going to get the hell out of there. But when it comes to tranquilizers, yeah, do you remember Hammurabi? I think that's how you pronounce the gorilla's name. The one, like a 4-year-old kid fell into the enclosure. I think it was in the Cincinnati Zoo, and the people at the zoo killed the gorilla so it wouldn't hurt the kid. And people were clamoring, well, why didn't they just tranquilize it? It's not like on TV or in the movies. If somebody actually had a tranquilizer gun and shot a Bigfoot with it, that thing would run for 10 miles in the forest before it dropped. We're not going to find it. So, I mean, that sort of thing. I mean, it's got to be put down. Unfortunately, if you want to prove anything.
Well, I can say this: when I was a little kid, my uncle was always going hunting, and up by somewhere near Mount Shasta. This is many years ago. This was in the '60s. We get a phone call, and my dad's freaked out because his brother is almost dying. He shot this bear. This is the story because one of his oldest sons was with him. He shot the bear. The bear kept coming. He shot the bear again, and the next thing you know, the bear was on him, mauling him. And then the bear died. But by then, my uncle was, tore up badly, was in the hospital for a couple months, and almost died numerous times because of the mauling. People don't realize you don't have much time. And just like anybody, I mean, I've seen people in firefights get shot like you wouldn't believe and still kept on running for a while. So even tranquilizing a Bigfoot, it could take 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Who knows? How much dosage do you have to give them to? And who's going to carry it with them anyway?
Well, exactly. Yeah. And the somebody shot. If they shot them, with a hunting rifle, if they're out hunting deer or something, and they shot a Bigfoot with that, these beasts are what, 8 foot tall, supposedly 8 foot tall, 500-600 pounds. They can take a lot of. I mean, it's got to be an extremely lucky shot to put one of these things down. So even if somebody goes out there with a rifle and they shoot it, I mean, the chances of actually killing it are pretty much nil.
And if you do kill it, who knows what its mate or other ones in the area might be too. So I mean, you might end up bagging one, but they'll maybe bag you too.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes, if I were out in the woods, well, I don't hunt. I know a lot of people who do, so I usually get meat for free. So I'm not complaining, but if I'm out in the woods, I'm not going to be prepared to do anything but run.
Yeah, that's what I did. Hey, James, you had a question real quick before we go on break?
I was just going to say, how are you going to drag an 8 foot, 800,000-pound beast up out of the woods in the middle of nowhere? Also, on top of that, and if they got friends, you're in trouble.
Oh, definitely. If they have friends, you're definitely in trouble. And yeah, you're not going to be able to haul it anywhere.
Yeah, and the time you go out and get people to help come back there, undoubtedly it won't be there.
It'll be gone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because people complain that, well, we've never run across a dead Bigfoot in the woods. Well, if these things are as intelligent as people say they probably are, they probably take their dead and bury them. Hell, Neanderthals not only buried their dead, they had, from evidence that has been uncovered, they had funeral services for them. So, I mean, who knows what Bigfoot does?
I just don't know what a Bigfoot is. I get these two type of people on my show. The ones that say they're friendly and all this, and I get the other ones that say that they're aggressive, and if you interfere with them, they'll attack you. I don't know. And if whatever I saw, the only other thing it could have been is a draft dodger from Vietnam. It went to Canada and lived up in the Canadian Rockies in the middle of nowhere. It gained about 400 or 500 pounds, and his hair grew all over, real long like a bear. I don't know what else to say other than, once you see something like that, I wish you could, Jason, because that changes your whole outlook of the paranormal. It changes your whole outlook if you say, oh, God, I saw a Bigfoot. Then it makes you wonder, well, gee, Mothman could be real also. We don't know unless we see one.
Well, that happened to me, not with a Bigfoot, but in the house I was growing up, I saw a full-bodied apparition when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and that completely changed